This is a demonstration of how to use Microsoft PowerPoint to make accessible documents and flyers. You can also use Microsoft Word to do the same, but if you're using PowerPoint, you have a lot more control over where items are on the screen and in what order they're read by the user. So if you're doing a linear document, it might be even easier to use Microsoft Word. But if you're doing a document, like a lot of the flyers that we create, where there's text kind of placed throughout the document rather than, like I said, in a linear fashion, uh, PowerPoint is probably going to be your best bet to be able to make an easy, accessible document. So we'll go over today how to go through that. So I'm going to start with a blank presentation. Now we're actually going to use the slide to be our piece of paper. So in PowerPoint, you can go to the Design tab, and in the Design tab under the Customize settings, you can change the size of the slide. You're going to want to choose the custom slide size from the menu. And a dialog box pops up and asks you what shape or size you want your slide to be. And we're going to turn this into the size of a piece of paper. So the first drop down for the slide sized for, you can choose to have it either be letter paper, legal paper, whatever size flyer you're trying to make, or you can customize the size yourself. I'm going to choose just a normal 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. You'll notice that by default, it makes the width and the height 1-inch margins. So if you don't want any margin, you will need to increase the width and the height. I'm going to increase the width to 11 and the height to 8.5. And the reason the height's only 8.5 and the width is 11 is because currently I have this slide as landscape. So there are radio buttons to choose whether you want landscape or portrait. I'm actually going to choose portrait because that's how most of the flyers that I make are like, and immediately it will invert the width and height for me. So now I have an 8.5 by 11 slide, and I can say OK. And that will now ask us how we'd like to scale. Well, we start with a blank document, so there's nothing to actually scale, so you can just use maximize. And now you have a slide that looks like a piece of paper. By default, PowerPoint adds a couple different edit boxes in here. You can use those if you'd like. I'm actually going to remove them. So you can just delete them if you'd like. You can click on the portion of the slide that you want to delete and hit the delete key on the keyboard, or you can right click and cut it and it will also remove it. So I'm going to select the portion I want to delete and hit the delete key on the keyboard, and that will go ahead and delete it. So now that I have a blank piece of paper, now I need to go to the Insert tab, and I can insert basically anything that I'd like, be it text boxes, shapes, images, things like that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and add a couple background colors. So I'm going to choose the Shapes section, and I'm going to choose the rectangle shape. And I am going to draw a rectangle that's even larger than the piece of paper, but I want it to make the whole paper a certain color. And then in the shape styles, I can now choose the different statistics. So you can do this by right-clicking on the shape itself, or up in the menu bar, you can also go and change the shape fill, shape outline. So shape fill is the color on the inside, shape outline is color on the outside, just the rim. So we're going to make this a red background, and I'm going to make the outline red as well. And so now we have a red background. Later, we'll get into how you determine what is actually read by making like an accessible document. So how PowerPoint is going to read this document and what order it reads. So right now, the only thing that we have to worry about is any image that we add. If it's an image and not text, we do have to add the alt text. So for this red background, it's purely a visual or a decorative image. So when we go to the alt text settings for the image, we're able to mark it as decorative. And if this had some sort of meaning that I wanted to add, I could add my alt text in the description, but I'm going to mark this as a decorative image. Now I'm going to also add and go to Insert again and add another shape. And this time I'm going to add slightly different shape. I'm going to add a triangle. I'm actually going to add a right triangle because I want to have part of the document be red and part of the document be black. So now I can draw a triangle, and I can again go and change the fill and the outline. So this time I'll do it by the right-click menu, and at the very top I can change the fill to black and the outline to black. So now you'll see that I'm starting to get a little bit of shape and a little bit of design. Graphic design is not my forte, but we got a little bit of shape, a little bit of design to our flyer. And now I actually want to add a couple of logos. So I'm going to go back to insert, and I'm going to insert pictures this time. Oh, before I do that, I do need to remember on my triangle, I'm going to have to format my triangle, and I'm going to do that again by right-clicking this time. And this is where I can edit the alt text by right-clicking, and my triangle is just a decorative piece. So now I'm going to go to insert, and I'm going to insert a logo. And so I'm going to insert a picture from this device. I've already saved a couple logos on the computer, so I've saved them on my desktop under images. And so I'm going to add the Palomar College and the ATC logo. So first I'll add the Palomar College DRC logo. This does not have the greatest contrast on this color. That's something you'll definitely want to pay attention to, is what the contrast is of your images with your background colors. So I'm going to change my background color so that we get something a little bit lighter here. Choose a lighter red. It gives us a little bit more contrast. Now, with our logos, these are not decorative images. These images actually have some meaning and have some text in them, but they're not actually text. So we will have to go into the alt text and actually give a description. You'll see that PowerPoint tries to automatically generate a description, and it just says a picture containing text. That's not a valid description for this, and not going to be descriptive of what's actually there. So I'm going to go ahead and add what is actually there in text. So it's the disability, it's DRC Disability Resource Center. And then it says Palomar College. And I want to make it clear that this is the DRC's logo. So I'm going to add logo to this alt text as well. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to insert another picture because I had the picture from the ATC, the Access Technology Center. So we're going to add the Access Technology Center logo. This one you see, it has a white background, so it is going to make white here. But PowerPoint's very nice and has some snapping features to help you try to line up your pictures. So we are going to line up our pictures here, put this logo here on the right for the Palomar College Access Technology Center. And again, we're also going to have to edit the alt text for this because this is a meaningful image. And so we're going to edit the alt text for this image. We're going to erase the auto-generated information. And this is Palomar College Access Technology Center logo. So now we have the beginnings of our flyer. Now we're going to want to put in some of the text. Maybe this is about the hours of operation for the ATC, let's say. So we're going to insert, and this time we want to insert a text box because I want to be able to type that information in. So I'm going to draw a text box here right around the middle of the screen. We're going to make this text box. We can right click and we can change our fill and our outline. You also can see it up here at the top under drawing or under format shape. You can see it in the shape styles. We're going to go ahead and we're going to make the fill white. So the background is white and our text will be black. So I will click in here and we will put hours of operation. And then I'm going to go down a couple lines and say days, Monday through Thursday, and then times, 8 a.m. to 4:30. Now, no, these might not be the actual days and times that the ATC is open. This is purely for a demonstration of how you would use PowerPoint. So I'm going to go ahead, and I don't like the way that font looks. I want to make it a little bit more bold. So that's on your home ribbon, or you can right click and get to your font settings as well here. But on our home ribbon, we're going to make this bold font, and we are also going to use the paragraph settings to center the font. And for the size of the flyer, I don't think the font is large enough. So I'm going to go ahead and also increase the size of the font, which is going to make me have to resize my window here. And you'll see PowerPoint helps you kind of line up if you're using your mouse. If you aren't able to use the mouse, you can edit shapes, and in your format shape, you can actually choose the size of the shape as well as what its absolute positioning is. So when you format the shape, you do have the size and position so that you can also type these in. So if you're unable to use the mouse, you can type in exactly where you would like these boxes to be and to keep them either at their horizontal and vertical position, keep them centered and things like that through the format shape section. So this is a very simple flyer, but here's the flyer that we've made. So now we have a flyer that has a little bit of visual flair, probably more if I were more so inclined. But you could add anything that you'd like. But now we have to make sure that it's accessible. So there were a couple things that we've already done to do that. We've worked on the alt text for every one of our images. We've worked on the alt text for our backgrounds. We've also used text as as a text box. And this text is already available because it's actually text. We don't have to have an alt text description. In PowerPoint, though, there is a menu called Review. And in that Review menu, you have a feature where it'll allow you to check the accessibility. So we're going to check that accessibility. And right now it says that there are no issues found. And so that's going to be important to at least double check. There's no issues. There might be some issues that pop up. If you forget to put your alt text in here, it will remind you of that. If it had to automatically generate any alt text for an image that you didn't type in, it will also remind you of that in the accessibility section. But there is one thing that it can't check for us because it doesn't know what order we wanted this flyer to be in. So PowerPoint assumes the order should be whatever order you place the objects, but that's not always the case when we're dragging around images. Sometimes they're in a different order. So you'll see now in the accessibility ribbon, there's a section for screen reader. And what we're going to want to look at here always is the reading order pane. And this is going to let us know on the right-hand side or in the pane window, it's going to tell you with check boxes which of the items are actually going to be read aloud and in what order they're going to be read aloud. So you'll notice that right now, the rectangle 3, which is decorative, when I click on it, it tells me and shows me with putting a circle, but it also selects it, gives it the focus. It lets me know that I've already marked as decorative. That's why it's unchecked. It's not going to read anything for that. The triangle, also unchecked and marked as decorative. Then this order happens to be the order that I want it to read in from left to right and from top to bottom. But let's say that actually the logos were down at the bottom. So I'm going to move both the DRC logo and the Access Technology Center logo to the bottom, and my hours of operation to the top. So now the reading order has not changed because it's the order in which we place the objects. But what I want it to read in has changed. I now want what's now item number 3 in the reading order, or the last one in the list. I want that text box to be the 3rd item in the list because it's actually going to come right after the 2 unread items, the rectangle and the right triangle. So now I've got the hours of operation being read first, the DRC logo being read second, and the ATC logo being read third. So now that I have checked my accessibility and I've created my reading order, I can now save my document. So I'm just going to save it. And this is demonstration. And then after you save it, you can now save it as a PDF document if you'd like. This will probably be the most accessible way. And what you're going to want to check when you save your PDF is you're going to want to go into the options and make sure it's extremely important, and it should already be checked, but the third item down, the third checkbox down under PDF options is enable accessibility and reflow with tagged Adobe PDFs. You're going to want to make sure that that item is checked. If you do not have this item checked, it won't create an accessible PDF. We're going to say OK, and we're going to save this. It will create a PDF document for you. This document can be used for print. This document can also be used on our website or sent out in an email, and it will have the proper reading order. This is not the how a student would most likely read it, but to give a demonstration, there is the way to check it to make sure that you're actually getting the correct reading order. Adobe Acrobat Reader or Acrobat Pro has a read out loud feature. It only reads from top to bottom, but you can activate that, and then you can go ahead and do read out loud and read this page only, and it will read the document from top to bottom so that you can verify that everything is there. But I can tell you that as long as you've done the accessibility settings and the reading order, you should be good to go. That should sum up the accessibility features on how to make an accessible document with PowerPoint. Again, what you're going to want to do initially is make sure that you change it to the size of the paper that you'd like. You're then also going to want to make sure that any images you add, including decorative background, that you go into the alt text and mark it as decorative if it's decorative, or provide an alt text if it's not. And then your final step would be to go into the review and make sure that both the accessibility review says that you have no errors or no errors that you need to correct. Some we're going to ask you to just visually check. And then you're also going to want to go into your reading order and make sure that your reading order is set to the correct reading order.